Welcome to Family Matters, Legal Edition, a special monthly segment of the Business of Family podcast. I'm Tammy Buss, Family Business Advisor and founder of BlueRoots.
And I'm Yola Ventresca, Managing Partner at Lerners LLP. Together, we're diving into the legal issues that impact family businesses, from succession and shareholder agreements to conflict resolution and governance.
Whether you're in the founder's seat, part of the next generation, or advising a family-run company, this series is here to help you navigate the legal side of legacy with clarity and confidence.
Join us every third Tuesday of the month for real talk, real stories, and practical legal insights.
Because in family business, the law isn't just about protecting assets, it's about protecting relationships.
So we have a very exciting topic today.
Yes, Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, who has just released her album, TS12, for the Swifties out there, The Life of a Showgirl. And we know she's just a global superstar. She is also running what Tammy and I thought of as one of the most successful family businesses in the world, which we're going to get into today. And with her parents and her brother deeply involved in her career, there's really a lot we can learn from the intersection of fame, family, and law.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's really important to understand how the family works as a team, really, and the legal challenges that, could come as a result of working so closely with your family.
Exactly.
So let's just take a look at who she has working. So she has her mom working for
Mama
her,
Swift.
right? Mama Swift. And so she's involved in sort of the personal and business management decisions, I understand.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then she's got her dad, Scott, Papa Swift. And he's really the financial and more strategic.
Yeah, and I think he comes from an investment background.
I think so.
Yeah. So I think that he's the money guy.
Yeah. And then she's got her brother, and he's really in sort of brand development or, the creative side of the business.
That's right.
And you really, I think the whole point of this is to think about it as a business. And when you are a business, are you a family business? And you would think as a singer, as a superstar, is that a family business? But in fact, there's a business behind that singing.
That's exactly right.
There's a whole business that really needs to be looked at. So this isn't just, it's kind of fun to look at this case as a business, but also for our listeners to realize that anything can be a family business.
That's exactly right.
You don't have to be making widgets.
Yes.
to be a family business.
Very true.
And there's a lot of issues around family and business. We're talking about the emotional boundaries, the financial boundaries. There's a ton of topics.
Yeah. Loyalty, shared vision, trust. I mean, those can be some of the advantages. But then we look at potential challenges. Obviously, Tammy, you know a lot about this. Blurred boundaries. People making decisions from an emotional point of view rather than from a business point of view. So I think there's really a lot to dig into.
There is. And not only just from the family's perspective, because when you think about it, Taylor is the business.
That's right.
Right. But around her, she's created a lot of property.
Yes, a lot of assets.
And, when you talk about challenges and concerns, it's different when you hire outsiders. But now, you are contributing to your whole family's lifestyle.
That's right. That's right.
So it's a lot of different challenges. If you have a fight or an issue with your brother or your mom and dad, they're still on your payroll. They're still controlling a vast part of your enterprise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you think about the way that balance of power or that calculus evolves. She's been in the industry now since she was 17, and I'm sure the way the family business was run and the dynamics of working with her family, that the way that looked like when she was 17 is very different now. And so, the progression and the evolution of the family business as Taylor became older, more independent, more arm's length from her parents, how did that impact the business itself?
And she's a pretty smart cookie.
She is.
And you sort of
She's actually Dr. Swift.
oh, is she?
Yeah,
I
she
didn't
was
realize that.
awarded an honorary doctorate. So, yes.
But when you think about that, you go, okay, well, you were 17, but it would have started way earlier than
That's
that.
right. That's right.
But you're starting as a family because you need your family's guidance because obviously you're still a minor,
Right.
right? But then as you start to get deeper into your career, now you're creating, as we talked about, intellectual property. And at the beginning, you sign on and somebody else owns some of your property. And, you have to look at how do you start to protect that?
That's right.
Right? You're protecting property. What about negotiating contracts with your family? You don't think about it. It's like this is your parents who've been around your whole life.
That's right. Her mother, she talks about who on her first tour slept in the car with her because they could not afford accommodations. So you have all that emotional, I don't want to say baggage, but history there in terms of the labor that was poured, the emotional labor that was poured into Taylor and her family moving from, I think they were in the Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania area, moving to Nashville for her career. So Taylor's career has been a family endeavor and a family exercise.
And it's continued, right?
That's
she
right.
didn't substitute somebody else for her creative director. It's her brother for the financial side, her dad. So, I mean, there's good sides and bad sides to having your family involved because you trust them, right?
Yeah.
There's that implicit trust that you just assume they've got your best interest at heart. But as we can tell from news articles that we read, that it's not always the case, right?
No, it isn't always the case.
That you think your parents or your best friend has, your back, and it turns out that they don't. So, when we talk about some of those issues, negotiating contracts.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when you're trying to negotiate a contract with your mother versus a third party.
Absolutely. And I've never really heard her speak publicly about how they've gone about that because we all know she has a very curated, a really curated image. And that's one issue I have to admit to being quite the Swiftie for everyone out there. So I probably consumed anything that's out there for consumption. I've never heard her speak on that issue in particular. I've heard her talk about, how she approaches contracts with third parties, but not in the family context.
Well, and you think that would be fairly important because, divorces happen.
That's right.
Fights happen. We've got your brother as part of this organization. And what does that look like in terms of, employment law? What's that like in terms of intellectual property? They've been there from the beginning. Are they, what does this look like? What's the structure of Taylor Swift's business?
That's right.
And, the ownership, and what about privacy and things like that. And again, I think it's important for people to realize that even though they're family, it's a business.
Yeah.
And you have to protect this for the next generation. Because in this case, we're talking about a reverse, where it's the child who created the business.
That's right.
As opposed to the parents that created the business and transferred it down.
Yeah.
So in all likelihood, the business will go, and we can talk about how does this actually carry on, would go to Taylor Swift's children if she had any.
Yes.
Right? Not backwards to the parents because it's a reverse flow.
That's right.
So you really have to be able to say what happens if something happened to Taylor, whether she retired, passed away, became disabled, and couldn't continue.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And is there a form of entitlement that the family thinks, is there? And we've seen it play out in the papers and the news cycle with Elvis's family. They're constantly feuding, and the daughter that just passed and the mother fighting for, control. So it does happen.
Yep.
It does happen.
And then you think about other huge family entities where it sounds like in this case, all the eggs were put in Taylor's basket in terms of the Swift family. And the parents have been in supporting roles in terms of the business, and by that I mean they have taken up the roles, roles of her business manager, her accountant, and creative direction. But then you juxtapose that against, another massive a family enterprise that's in the public eye, which is the Kardashians,
Mm-hmm.
and the mother who was behind pushing forward much
Mm-hmm.
of their success, and that brings up other issues as well, which we've all seen outplay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
But I guess I get where we're getting to is that the bottom line is, even though it's your family, you got to start to look at what does this look like moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're hard conversations to have, and you think, well, I don't need to have that conversation, but now that Taylor's getting married,
right.
that throws a whole other dynamic into play, right?
Someone, and I admit to being a Travis Kelce fan, so this is not meant as disrespect, only to jump off your point that there was a meme going around that became very popular that said Travis is about the prenup that Travis is about to read is likely longer than any book he's ever read.
Which is probably true, right?
I would think so.
But again, that comes into play because you have to look at all of these things.
That's right.
Even if you're, in this case, she is the founder generation
That's
of
right.
this,
Yeah.
right? And her parents are almost like the second gen. Her brother, this is sort of an unusual. But when you're married and you have now a spouse and potentially children down the road, or divorces, how is that going to impact?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the key things, is to make sure that you're looking at this family business or potential family business as a business that does require a lot of governance,
Yeah.
right?
And I think we have some insight into how she's done this, because she was in a very long-term relationship with Joe Alwyn prior to Travis Kelce, and he actually was credited with, as a co-writer on some of her songs. So he's still getting royalties from some of those songs. But given that we haven't heard that there's some fight, with Joe Alwyn for more of the family business, I would assume that there was a pretty locked down legal agreement with him about what he would be entitled to upon the dissolution of the relationship.
Yeah, and given that she had that fight with her previous recording
Scooter
company,
Braun,
and lost the rights or had given them up unbeknownst,
they were sold, I think,
or something, and she couldn't get them back.
Yeah,
so lesson learned, right?
yeah, exactly
and
right.
So for her re-recording her albums in order to have control of them.
Yeah.
So she's a pretty smart cookie. And again, she surrounds herself with the right people. But, what we want to talk about is, if anything happened to her, what does that look like? Because this business isn't just gone. And although she is the main focal point of the brand and the growth of the brand, if anything was to happen to her, she still has all this property that's out
right.
there that will continue for generations.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Just like in the sense of Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
He's probably, I don't know how long he's been dead now, but geez, I remember when he passed away. I think it was in the 70s.
78?
It was in the 70s.
I think so.
Right? And here we are, 2025, and, still fighting over the estate. So it's really important, because you're going to have kids. She's going to have, potentially have kids, have grandchildren. Or in her brother's case, I don't know really much about his side of the family.
He's relatively quiet, very, very low key, and stays under the radar in terms of his public persona. So I don't think there's that much known about him, but he is definitely in the circle of trust.
And again, that's another thing about trust and transparency. And privacy, and what can you share, what can you not share, and I do think that having family members, there is trust in there, but it's implied trust.
That's right. It's by virtue of the relationship.
Yes,
and
we know they can go sideways.
That's right. Though I would have thought, and Tammy, we can talk about this, that given how long they've been doing this and how it appears that it's been so seamless for them. Do you think that they're kind of traveling down the golden highway now? Do you think if something could have gone wrong, it would have gone wrong by now? Or do you think it's going to take some cataclysmic event for things to perhaps go off the rails?
You don't really know, right? I mean, yes, her parents have been a part of this and her growing up, but people divorce.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know their circumstances. I'm not sure if her brother's married, but
I think
what
her parents are
happens?
actually divorced.
Are they?
Yeah, little known fact. I think that they are.
Oh.
I don't think, I think they do a lot together, but I think they are in fact divorced. And
Interesting.
this knowledge that comes to you from, you know, my
The
hours
Swiftie?
my hours of digging late night into Reddit conversations.
And you see, from my perspective, I'm not a Swiftie, so I look at this
Yeah.
from a great business case.
Yeah.
Like honestly, this is a fabulous case from a business perspective, whether it's a family business or not, just from a business side. But from a family side, to realize that because it is a business, and it's a family business because there's family members in the business,
That's right.
right? So as soon as you have a second family member, it's a family business.
Yeah.
Right, as long as the family has control of the business. Now, if you just work for an employer and you have a sibling works there too, it's not a family business.
That's right.
But if you have control of the business or ownership in the business, and you have more than one family member, then it is considered a family business, and that comes down to estate planning. How does that transition? Looking at trusts, looking at all types of different products and vehicles that can protect.
Yeah.
But one of the things, what would happen if one of the family members actually left the business?
So from what I've seen of Taylor and her inner circle, it appears that they've done something which I know you are a huge proponent of, which is usually item A for you in terms of working with new clients, is that they have clearly defined roles.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
And again, most family businesses don't have defined roles. You just are in the business and you're doing everything.
Right. And I think that as she has grown into womanhood, she has found a way to boundary, it seems, her personal life from her professional life. So I would assume that there are very, very clear boundaries in terms of your professional sphere, what professional sphere do you have authority over, and I think they hold each other accountable.
Right.
So an interesting point on this front is, we talk about her image and her being the curator of that image, and she is the creative in all of this, and we talk about her father being the accountant. A really interesting scene that was in one of the documentaries about her is when she brings to her parents that she wants to speak out about American politics. And for a long time she didn't. And it reached an inflection point for her where she felt she really had to speak out. And you see this very interesting exchange between she and her father, where her father slips into dad mode and says to her, I bought you armored car. I'm the one that went out and bought the armored cars. Why would you do this to yourself? Why, essentially, why would you put yourself in harm's way? And, she stands her ground and says, I'm going to do this. But you see there the worry that any parent would have about their child doing something that could potentially engender backlash or, risk to their safety.
Right.
And
well, all kinds of death threats, and
yeah, that's
you
right.
look at Charlie Kirk.
That's right.
There's a thing, but again, it goes back to the family, the business, and the ownership.
That's right.
And that's when you say going into dad mode, that's a family discussion.
That's right.
Right. So here I am talking to you as a parent.
Yes.
And how I feel about your safety. If you're talking at it from a business perspective as your financial advisor, wealth manager, or whatever I happen to be, the role I have, how does this impact the income and the potential future income?
Well, it's really interesting you say that, because alongside, so I'd like to unpack this with you a little bit, because alongside saying, I bought you armored cars, I'm worried about your safety, another line that Scott Swift threw out there was, this could alienate half of your fan base.
Yes.
So what would you say to us if we brought you a proposal that would say that might result in half of your fans, being pushed away from you?
That's why it's so important that you have these conversations, because it could very easily escalate into, well, hold on here a second. You didn't buy those armored cars.
Yeah.
I
bought-
technically
yeah,
bought those armored
yeah.
cars. So it can escalate very quickly.
Yeah.
And what's really important and what I stress when I'm working with families the first time is really understanding the roles and responsibilities of the family, the business, and ownership.
Yeah.
Because I can say, I don't want you doing that as your father or your mother because I don't want to see you hurt. And that's my personal side. On a business note, here's what I think.
Yeah.
This will be good, this will be bad.
Yeah.
But this is different, right? Because it's impacting both sides of your life. And impacting theirs as well, because their incomes are based off of the work they're doing with Taylor.
That's right.
That's a role they have. And again, it comes back to understanding the role, and they'll always be the parent. And they might be advisors to some degree, but these are her parents.
Yeah.
So she's younger than her parents. So at some point in time, they might have to stop for whatever reason.
That's right.
Right? An age-related illness. It could be just, I'm tired, I just don't have the energy, or they're passing. So having the defined roles is really important if you need to replace them, or to say, look we know you're getting tired of this and you're just not, you can stay on a family council and we can talk about this, or at a board level, but from a business perspective,
It doesn't really make any sense.
we're going to have to get a successor in your place, and let's really define what you do and how, and what is the accountability. You talked about that before. It's about accountability. And sometimes I don't think as family members, we put the accountability as at the top like we should.
No, it's the trust that goes first usually.
Yeah. Because I've got clients, and again, they all have roles in their business, and they're doing their role. But if someone's upset, there's no way to sort of hold them accountable because there's no accountability. What is your actual role?
Yeah, and similarly with my clients, those who come out of the family business context, the biggest problem that I see is that there are not any contracts. There's no role definition. There's not even, practice ability to have open and frank discussions, which is also a skill amongst family members.
It's hard.
Which is why Tammy is here. So, a lot of our initial conversations are, mapping out who has done what for how long. Usually it's evolved, but the legal frameworks have not followed the evolution of the person's role in the business, and there's been no forethought to what might happen if things go wrong. And as we say all the time, it's much easier to have those discussions up front before.
It's like your prenup.
Yeah, there's an actual issue on the table. That's right. Yeah.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Yeah.
But generally, you and myself, we get called in after the horse has left the barn.
That's right.
Right? And the key here is to have these discussions in advance.
Yeah.
And make sure that you have them documented. Because in the case of Taylor, she right now is single and, has her family, her mom and dad and her brother as key components. But once she gets married, now she's got somebody else who's going to be in her ear as much as her family.
Absolutely.
And there's a shift there, more to your spouse, because they're every day there are, and I know your parents have been there your whole life and have helped your career, but it changes, right?
It really does.
And you don't want to go at this after the fact, because then it's like, well, did your husband say we should do this? Like, why is this happening?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not saying this is going to happen
with
Taylor, but I'm saying that this happens a lot, that family goes, hold on here a second, we need a prenup here, if you're getting married. It's not that we don't love the, new son-in-law or daughter-in-law, but we just need to protect everything that we've worked for the last 30 or 40 years.
Exactly.
And it might not even be worth the billions of dollars that Taylor's worth, but it's so important.
That's right.
Right?
And, I think, for all of its challenges, though, I think that she has really projected into the world what a successful family business at that level can look like. And, if I can just draw upon, all the Swifties out there will know that she just reclaimed ownership of her masters. And her masters had been acquired by a company called Shamrock Productions. And she's spoken publicly about how she thought about her strategy in going into the negotiations with Shamrock. And instead of sending a team of lawyers down there, she actually sent her mother and her brother. And it was that meeting that led to Shamrock agreeing to allow her to buy her masters back, which is something that she's been trying to do for a decade. As you alluded to, the whole re-recording was done so that she was trying to devalue the old ones, but using leaning on the family as a business tool in the toolbox. And in this case, I think because it had been so clear to everyone who's followed her career how important her mother in particular and her brother are to her, that gesture of sending them down for the negotiations may have been what had hearts and minds open and Swifties everywhere celebrating.
Yeah, and you know what? I really think that she's so smart. She probably has these hard conversations, had them early, had them often.
I think so.
And got everything documented. Like, I think, and again, I think there's a business case, actually, one of the universities here in Canada that actually does a whole business case on her, and how it's not just a singer-songwriter, it's a huge mega enterprise.
Yeah, and the new dean, Dr. Kimji at Western, the new dean of the Faculty of Law, has an entire course about Taylor Swift and the various legal issues that intersect with her career.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing. Well, anyway, I can't believe we're out of time already.
I can't believe that either.
So really, what we want to say is, whether you're running a farm, a retail store, or the biggest pop career on the planet, the rules are the same.
They are.
A family business is a family business.
It's true.
And you have to make sure you have had conversations that are difficult. You need to document. And you need to communicate.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Any final parting words?
Keep making your friendship bracelets.
Yeah. I don't have one of those.
Oh, I'll make you one.
Okay.
We should all have matching ones.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, okay. And so shall we give the heart, Tammy? I hope everyone is enjoying TS 12, and perhaps we will bring Taylor into our podcast
Wouldn't
again.
that be nice? Maybe we'll ask her to come on as a guest.
Yeah, after the Kelsey brothers, that will be your second.
Will be your second podcast.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Family Matters Legal Edition. We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about or talk about in your own family business.
If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd benefit from hearing it.
Have a legal question or topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, remember, in family business, what's legal is personal. Take care. The information shared in this podcast is for general educational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create a lawyer-client relationship. For advice specific to your situation, please consult a qualified legal professional.